kick it off. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for dialing in and sharing your lunchtime with us. My name is Will Marm. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army Special Forces and a graduate of Bancroft Capital's Veteran Training Program. Welcome to the Patriot Lunch, featuring Zach Venning, a former U.S. Army Psychological Operations Non-Commissioned Officer. Some of you have seen this, some of you haven't, so I'll level the bubbles here. I put together this event to highlight one high-performing veteran to you, corporate America. I did this because I wanted to break down the barriers between corporate America and the veteran population so that you can gain a better understanding of these skill sets, this unique experience, the leadership that vets like Zach can bring to your company. And we know, maybe you don't know, but transitioning from the military, especially in such a unique and challenging career field, it's very hard, and it's really critical to build a network. With this Patriot Lunch, we hope that those networks are continued to be built for Zach. We succeed as an organization when those relationships are made and strengthened. I'll connect you with Zach afterwards, and I encourage you to get to know him. He's brilliant, and he'll provide substantial leadership and quality to whichever company pulls him in. So we have time at the end of this dialogue to raise your Zoom hand or text me a message, and we'll get you in the queue to dialogue, to ask questions, if you're curious about or want some more information about anything from Zach. An overview of Bancroft Capital. Most of you know Bancroft Capital's special mission and our lines of business. We are a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business operating as an institutional broker-dealer and investment bank. Through our best-in-class veteran training program, of which I'm a graduate, we accomplish our mission, which is to train and empower transitioning veterans to succeed in the financial services industry, period. Bancroft Capital takes the proceeds of their business and their lines of effort to pay for this mission. The core lines of business are cash management, public finance, fixed income, debt and equity capital markets, secondary trading desk, and investment banking. So please remember Bancroft Capital if you ever need these services. So now for the main event, we're pleased to welcome Zach Venning. Zach served for 10 years in the U.S. Army Special Operating Forces as a psychological operations non-commissioned officer. He's got incredible experience throughout Europe and Southeast Asia. He worked with the U.S. Department of State, Department of Justice, and local partners in the countries he's deployed to. As a PSYOP professional, Zach built and led teams. He's utilized behavioral analysis and psychological techniques to counter terrorist networks via non-lethal means. It's really an amazing career field that hopefully you get a good glimpse of today. Zach earned his bachelor's degree, his MBA, and he recently completed his MS. And after the military, Zach gained some great experience in the financial sector. I could go on and on, but I want him to. So Zach, we're grateful for you to be here. Would you please kick us off with a personal introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Will. And thank you everyone for joining. As Will mentioned, I spent 10 years in the military. The first 3 were in chemical reconnaissance in Germany. And then the last 7 was in special operations as a psychological operations non-commissioned officer across Southeast Asia. I've worked with all kinds of walks of life. I've gained my bachelor's, my MBA focusing in corporate finance from North Carolina State, and then my master's of science in sustainability management from Columbia University. Thanks.
That's amazing. I just like to say, like, very few people have an MBA and a master's of science. One of them pretty much peter out after that, and you're just thirsting for more of that, and good on you. So that is, Zach comes to us in partnership, as you might have seen on the Patriot Lunch advertisement, in partnership with the Special Operators Transition Foundation. That is a nonprofit that's committed to helping special operating forces transition into their next great career in corporate America. Take a look at their website. Let us know if you want an introduction for our corporate friends out there. They have a deep pipeline of great Americans who are transitioning into your corporate spaces. That would make immediate impacts into in your companies. So let's kick this off with our dialogue. Zach, everyone's got a why I joined the military story. Tell us about yours. Why'd you join?
Yeah, so I come from a military family. I guess it's important to lay that out up front. And as a big wrestler in high school, I got accepted to a school out of state, and parents were saying, hey, we want you to go in state first, and you can transfer out. I said, well, I want to wrestle. I want to go out of state. And so I said, if you don't let me do that, Mom, I'm going to join the Army. And so she said, I bet you won't do it. And so the next thing you know, I'm down at the recruiting station, and I'm signing down on that line, and I'm off to the military.
Gosh, it's funny. Yeah, like a bluff, huh? And neat that you joined the military, from a military family. That's becoming kind of rare and rare, and certainly you had that experience, or sorry, that example in your folks. So I mean, it takes perseverance and fortitude to get through the training and deployments and work, particularly in your career field there, and mental resilience. So can you share with us an example of those qualities in action, and how that went with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as once you're selected after, the assessment process for any of these special operations career paths, you have to go through a rather rigorous pipeline, if you will, which consists of, your job, training, and then, these hard gates as well, like ruck marches, physical fitness tests, and the likes. Well, halfway through language school, which was, we'll say, the first 3 months, I tore my ACL training up for events. And I was basically faced with the options of going back to the chemical corps, or, going to physical therapy, throwing a knee brace on, and continuing on with the jumps, the runs, the ruck marches, the whole nine, everything. And so that's what I did. I decided that this was the career field I wanted to go down. I threw a brace on my knee and went to physical therapy about 4 times a week, and continued on with the jumps. Some of the most scariest jumps I've ever had was with a torn ACL, as you can imagine. Making the ruck march 12 miles in the 3-hour mark, and the 5 mile in 45 minutes. So it was definitely a time.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I had 2 comments on that. So what don't tell us publicly, but what would be the anti-inflammatory regimen that you were using to keep that down? And then the other thing is did I hear you say that you busted your knee, your ACL, in language school? So I got to ask, which language was this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I speak Bahasa Indonesia. So
okay, so it was Indo in the vernacular, in the soft vernacular, we call that Indo, and that's not it's not for the faint of heart, and clearly it had an effect on ligaments. Well, that's amazing. And so you literally just kind of like saddle up and did it again with a busted up knee, and then you ended up did it swell down or kind of take care of itself afterwards, or how'd that work out?
No, I actually ended up having to go to and get surgery, because the whole reason why it was suggested that I either withdraw from the program or continue on is because sure, as most sports nuts here know, any ACL injury is about a year recovery post-op. So thankfully, within the special operations community, we had excellent Thor 3 physical therapists, and I was able to recover in 9 months instead of the 12.
That's amazing. Yeah, physical therapy is brilliant.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of the underrated option, and I'm glad it all worked out. That's really amazing. So let's move on. As a PSYOP professional, you're trained to deal with all walks of life, to interact, to maneuver. You kind of have to map out essentially the networks. You have to map out the human terrain, um, and it takes a lot of smarts, a lot of composure, a lot of thought to deal with the top of the top and the bottom of the bottom. You know, the money launderer or the dangerous criminal or the ambassador or senior local leader. Can you kind of talk us through how you saw that and how you kind of navigated that human terrain?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you hit it right on the head, where you have to talk to everybody, because that's the nature of the job, is understanding, how can I tap into behavioral motivation, behavioral drivers to get people to do things on behalf of, the country's objectives and so on, right? So that could be anywhere from, 9 o'clock in the morning, you're, having a briefing with the ambassador of the embassy to, 10 o'clock, now you're talking to USAID, and then at 11 o'clock, you're talking to someone who's just convicted of terrorism, right? So it really varies your day to day and who you're talking to. But I think being personable and understanding how to flip the switch and know your audience really aids to that. And then just understanding, where you're going, and then how to relate to people, even if it's that one-sided rapport that we like to call it in some cases that was needed. But it's definitely taking on life experiences as well, and then trying to transform those into being able to have conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. And then of course, a kind of follow up on that. I think it's really interesting to be able to have a conversation with a let's say a terrorist leader, and then it's not just that first conversation, but it's that follow up. And so how do you work through that? Because everything's on relationships, as we all know. And that first conversation, okay, you might be able to get that, but what about the second one, and then the third one, and then how can you maneuver through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's always about keeping what's important and what you need to get done in the back of your mind, right? It's a lot of times it's setting aside your own personal feelings for understanding what the greater mission is, which you have to get done. And so, as we're trained in any type of engagement, right, your objective most of the time is to get the second meeting, and then to get the third meeting, until you're slowly introducing them to more people that can eventually take that conversation forward, if need be, with the community that the embassy has. So it's definitely setting aside any personal feelings, if you will, and just focusing on what the greater mission is, and working towards that objective.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, setting aside personal feelings for the greater mission, which I can't only imagine how really challenging that is when you're dealing with sometimes you're dealing with pretty lousy people.
Oh yeah.
That are not like you. And of course, you're in Indonesia, so there's a lot of people there that aren't like you. Like, you're in a completely, really foreign country. Yeah, fascinating. So, so you persevere through and sacrifice through a decade of service. Can you share with us a particular event or operation that you consider memorable? Something that provided you like a lifelong lesson learned, something that, obviously you focus on the greater mission, the greater good, but that wasn't easy. Can you talk us through, an example there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it kind of goes back to, that ACL story, because it had more impact, right, as kind of time went on. I graduated from the course with the ACL torn, and I decided that, I made it through this course. So what's, continuing on the follow-on training, like, it can't be that bad, right? So shortly after getting to my team, I was instructed that, hey, we need you to go to survival school, right? CRC. And so for those unfamiliar, SEER puts you through a few scenarios in survival, evasion, resistance, and escaping, due to being a high-risk personnel of capture. And I did that on a torn ACL, and fortunately was unable to complete it the first go around. Was devastated. And then I had to go back, which no one wants to go back to SEER, especially
Okay.
being 1 week from completion.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had to go back post operation. So, you see your favorite, mixed martial arts fighter or NFL fighter, and you hear the commentary saying, he's trying to figure out how to gain the confidence back in his knee post ACL surgery, et cetera. That was me trying to go back to this school, which would make me eligible to deploy with the same individuals I graduated with. So not only was it just a personal, personal will, but it was also wanting to go out with the people that I had spent almost a year with, learning and training together, and wanting to deploy with them. So I had all of these things working, the perseverance and all, the pain, unfortunately, was what actually drove me to complete it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you are special, or you are very gifted, and most people in the world would not say that last sentence you just said, which is, you had to fight through that pain, and you did, really, because the pain of not deploying with the team and with the group is worse than your knee that wasn't holding together. And so that's a really special fortitude and perseverance that you went through the physical things, but can be immediately applied to corporate world for building teams. And so let's talk about that, for building, your experience in, Indonesia, and then, the how, you build teams. What's it like to build a team and lead a team abroad, first off, and then we can kind of follow in that, the corporate world. Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. So building a team and leading them abroad is certainly no faint or easy task. A lot of factors go into it, as like, do you need language speakers, or would it be beneficial to have someone that speaks the language where you're going? What it is, I guess, backing up for a second, what it is that you're going to go do, right? And then who fits that skill set that is available. So not, whenever you're building these teams, not everyone's always available, right? So you can have the most gifted, talented people within a company that are scattered in different country teams, right? Because that's how we were broken up, but they might not all be available. So one of the things that I had to do was get together with the officer that I had in charge and say, hey, look, these are the people available. These are the people I think would best fit this mission set. I think we should take them, and this is why. And and then we're kind of going through that process.
Mm-hmm. So you have to know your team. You have to know your people. It starts with that relationship, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and then developing them into a team, into a machine, to be able to accomplish that. So you had, so you basically were able to identify a team, select them, and then train them, and then deploy with them. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. And in that specific instance, we were going to train US or UN peacekeepers to go to their first trip to Africa. And I needed people that understood what was going to happen, what was going on over there, and certain skill sets might be needed. I'll give a quick example, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that was happening quite often was, IEDs, or improvised explosive devices. And one of the guys on my team, he had spent some time in EOD previously, and he knew how to, craft certain devices, right? So the first day of training there, the individuals we were training had no idea what they were doing, really, and they were just they saw a paper bag on the route, and they would just kind of pick it up and say, oh, it's all good. We're like, hey, but there's wire sticking out of that thing. Maybe it's not okay, but it's like, yeah, well, nothing happened, so it's okay. So we're like, all right, no problem. So the guy on my team went down to the market, found some local firecrackers, crafted something up real quick, and then it makes loud noises. And so now the training is more real, right? And No one else on the team had that capability or knew how to do that, but he did. And so I was extremely grateful for him being there, because we felt like in our after action discussion, we felt like had that not been a part or a component of the training, maybe we might not have gotten the progress that we were looking for. And then also with the team of 5-6 people, I had 3 Indonesian speakers, including myself. And so one of the other rapport building activities I put together was having English lessons, right? So we would just have the Indonesian speakers meet with them and have English lessons.
Wow, that's great. So you were actually teaching English. You were an English like instructor for like a part-time English instructor, which I'm sure you didn't know you were going to do before you went there. Huh? Yeah, wow. So that's so you were in Indonesia training an Indonesian team to be UN peacekeepers in Africa.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a more dynamic mission set than that. We're talking, very multiple touches to get to the end zone. And I can only imagine you have to focus on the basics, obviously communications, which you nailed in first language. And thankfully you and your teammates could speak Indonesian. And I'm pretty sure the African country that they were going to deploy to probably didn't speak Indonesian, but they probably spoke English or French. Wow, what a effort to try to prepare for and then execute, and then follow up with them if there was any ever follow up with them on that. Those UN, they were blue hat wearing teams. Is that correct?
That's right. And they did all come home. So, that was a win in our books. Once they did take off and come back, we found out they all came home. So
wonderful. Yeah, that's the biggest long-term win, is that they're able to do a mission to whatever standard is there. Obviously not a US standard, maybe an African standard or a UN standard or an Indonesian standard. But they're able to accomplish, that and then come home all in one piece. Is good. That's very noteworthy. So let's talk. So you worked, you had a decade of career serving our military, special operating forces. You transitioned. Life is busy. You knocked out 2 master's degrees. You build your family. I can't imagine that you have a lot of free time. But yet in our conversation, our prep talk before, you still do find the time, and really it's the value to volunteer in your community. Can you share those experiences? Let's talk us through that and why, and what are you doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things I do. So naturally, I try to stay as close as possible with SOTF just to help other transitioning vets out, especially bringing them towards like the New York area. And I hosted one event out here. I became a brand ambassador for Athletic Brewing Company, just to bring awareness to, or try to bring awareness to the special operations community and the military as a whole, that, alcoholism is pretty big, and, and non-alcoholic beer, it's pretty good from Athletic Brewing. That's not a plug, by the way. And then 2 other things I do is I volunteer with Teachers College at Columbia, helping student veterans that are having a tough time transition, and also through the research portion, helping find sponsors for veterans that are getting ready to transition off of active duty. And that's, regardless of rank. It could be from the E-Fuzzy or E1 all the way up to, retired officers that are looking to make their transition, but might just need a little bit of guidance and support.
Wow. Yeah, there's a whole lot there. So I I missed a couple volunteer events in there that I was just trying to scribble down. But what I mean, athletic brewing, you're volunteering in student clubs with student clubs at Columbia University. Is that correct?
That's right. But it's the research lab out of the clinical psychology department at Teachers College at Columbia.
Yeah, talk us through that.
Yeah. So basically, student veterans that might be having a tough time transitioning out, they might be faced with some type of distress. And so the idea behind the program is that it utilizes interpersonal psychotherapy to mentor and counsel veterans that are having these issues while they're going to school, to help them transition better and to be students, to be better students, or to just find their footing. It could be a myriad of things as to why it's tough to transition. And that's what the lab is there for, to help facilitate that transition.
That's amazing. So you get to, I mean, you are kind of very hands-on in the veteran, the transitioning veteran field. And for our corporate audience, it's kind of hard for them to reach out to veterans. They don't know where to go. To you and I, and to the veterans that are also on the call now, you think it's very easy because you were in it all the time, but to clients at Citi or MedLife or Verizon or whatever, you name the company, they may not have that understanding of how to just reach out and get to know these veterans. So there's a ton of options out there for the corporate audience here. Bancroft Capital, number one, as an SDVOSB, and their angles into a lot of different nonprofits. SOTF, Special Operators Transition Foundation, SOTF.org, is, as I mentioned earlier, has an access to a pipeline of transitioning soft vets that are coming in. But as you mentioned, the student veterans in Columbia University, so every organization has student veteran clubs, every university, and that's really interesting. I cannot imagine how hard it would be to come out of the military and go to Columbia University. Forgive me for my ignorance on all that, but it was hard enough for me moving to Northern Virginia, where there's a vet, there's everywhere, versus Columbia, where there's not a vet everywhere. And so I can imagine how hard it is, because you're kind of an island out there. And so good on you to be able to help them and to be able to, meet them where they are and bring them to where you are, or where they could be. And then talk to me about athletic brewing. I know it's not a plug. I've never heard of it. But is this near beer? Are we talking non-alcoholic beer?
Yep. So it's a non-alcoholic beer. And I signed up with them 3 years ago, once I transitioned out to be an ambassador for them. And really, it was just on the basis of, knowing a lot of guys from the teams that just, quite frankly, just kind of had a problem with, heavy drinking. And it's no secret that it's kind of rampant through the military, and it has secondary and tertiary effects, as I'm sure we can all discern from. And so that when I learned about athletic brewing, I gave it a try. I was like, stuff's pretty good. You can't really tell the difference. And then one of the big things is, operators in the community, what they focus on and what we enjoy is staying fit, right? And so, as I'm sure everyone has seen these latest articles coming out about how alcohol can be just such a detriment to your physical fitness and gaining these peak levels, I felt what better time than now to continue on the effort and spread the word.
Yeah, that's amazing. I distinctly remember being a young guy in Kuwait, preparing for the invasion of Iraq. So for 6 months we rehearsed 3rd Infantry Division, invasion, through all the berms and all the minefields, all the major cities, and then into the thunder runs through Baghdad, staying in anyhow. But all that to say is, prior to just, Christmas Eve, drinking the near beer. What was that? I don't know. Budweiser. So I don't know what it was. It was non-alcoholic beer. I'm like, what is this stuff? Athletic Brewing should get in on the oversee the, I don't know, the military food process where they deliver that stuff. You're not allowed to have drinks over there, but you can't have the near beer. Yeah, fascinating. There's a market there. So wow, okay. So we've got some questions that are popping in here. Tell me about the MBA. What about the MBA? What did the MBA not teach you about the business world that you learned from the military? What did the MBA not give you that you already had? But now that you spent some time in the finance world, tell me about this.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to just kind of being able to talk with people from all walks of life. One of the things, and I'll use a brief example here. I know we're running short on time, but
no, we're good. We're good. Keep going.
Okay. When I was offered the position to join the venture capital firm as a VC associate there, I was told straight up. They said, "Hey, look, you've got skills of talking to people that I can't really train, and I've got to look high and low for. So I need you to just go out, source deals, and vet people and see what you think about them and bring them back." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea," So I did that for a while. But I think that's what that answer is. The MBA certainly gave me a crash course on finance, and just enough to be dangerous, I suppose, in an interview. But it's definitely taking that and then going forward with it, and not just relying solely on, well, this is what we did in school, so this must be the end all be all.
Yeah, you brought you had substantial life experience that you brought into the MBA, so you had a kind of a prism of experience to be able to analyze. Yes, the book learn is good, but applied, application in real life is a little bit better. I respect that. Great job with that. The next question we have here is, and again, like I said, if you do have questions, anybody, please just raise your hand. And if I'm missing it, one of my co-hosts will help me out here as well. So tell me, you illicit behavior. Okay, so you're trained to approach situations from a unique perspective, right? Like it's very unique to train to one, get through your qualification course on a bum knee, not just like a bum knee, not like an aching knee, but like a torn ACL. And so you're trained to approach situations from a unique perspective. So you had a very unique mission. So you have to bring a unique perspective to it. It can't be just textbook. So you bring a thought process, planning, to elicit, and as a PSYOP professional, psychological operations professional, to elicit behavior that supports your mission. That's like that is not one-dimensional at all. That's second, third dimension interaction. How were you prepared to do that in life, in your heart, in these unique situations? How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare to elicit behavior in these unique situations, even in VC, at in New York City? Talk me through that.
Yeah, so I think there's certainly two sides of it. One professionally, and then one kind of personal on my own. The professional side of it, I think it begins with research and understanding, and having a solid framework for something, right? Especially when it comes to behavioral change, and understanding there are key components to driving behavior and changing it, or influence, if you will. And then the academic side of that is understanding that, not every problem set is the same. So I worked across Southeast Asia, and although I spent most of my time in Indonesia, I was in the Philippines, Korea, Japan, Australia as well. So those are different problem sets, right? But the underlying structure of how behavior is formed and how it's changed over time is still there. You have to find a way to kind of tap into that. And that's where I think the other side of the coin comes in as far as personal development, where in order to be able to talk to people of different walks of life, I feel like you have to go out and gain some type of experience to do so, right? So whether it's you read a book, okay, you can read different books and you might draw conclusions or you might draw parallels to whatever it is that the person across the table from you might have experienced, or you actually go out and you be comfortable with being uncomfortable and place yourself in situations and environments that will give you some type of lesson. So I like to, when I travel, I like to figure out what type of local cuisine I can make, and if I can learn it from a chef that's there, and also some type of adventurous activity to show like, okay, yeah, I meet someone from Spain, right? I say, oh, well, I've been to the Catalonia and I learned how to make the traditional paella, the pan de tomate, all that good stuff, right? And so that's why I think it also kind of combines together. Then you can actually, relate to people and begin to have rapport building and so on.
So I'm gonna make a joke, but are you admitting, and this is totally legit, because there's a lot of hidden foodies out there all over the place, and talking, making the styles of food is a love language for a lot of people, and that really relates to what you mentioned with just kind of meeting them where they are and understanding some of those key components that can influence people. Some of that is food. Some of that is other passions and desires and likes and hobbies and stuff like that. But a thread on this line of conversation is that in your volunteering aspects, when you're volunteering as an ambassador to Athletic Brewing, to address the issue of alcoholism in the transitioning veteran population, as well as the desire for athletic excellence. And as a soft veteran, I mean, by design and by qualification and training, you are an elite athlete. And so, when you address that, when you are addressing your populations of veterans, and let's say the student clubs in Columbia, you understand how to influence them. You understand, how to help improve their responses to some of the simulations and the nature of Columbia. So yeah, really neat, man. It sounds like there's a really great niche and really nice vein in there for you. What do you like to do in your free time? Speaking of athletic endeavors and elite working out.
Yeah, I try to still get my my lifts in. You there? You're frozen a little bit. Or am I frozen? You there?
Oh, you're good. You're unfrozen. Go ahead.
Okay. I still try to get my lifts in, Olympic lifting here and there. My son and I are both in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so we do that. Just kind of just started on that train, but coming from a long background of wrestling and just knocked out the New York Marathon last year. That was an interesting time. Probably have no desires of running that far again anymore, but it was definitely a fun experience. But yeah, I just stay active. I go camping, sailing, hiking, all the fun stuff, just to keep my mind sharp and to not fall into a rut post-military career.
Yeah, that's amazing. You did the New York City Marathon, is that right? With, I don't know, 10. I mean, how many thousands of people are in that?
There was a lot, and I think last year was the hottest year on record, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some of our friends on the call here are involved in the Tunnels Towers run, which is, it strikes near and dear to all of our hearts, obviously in the city, for the 9/11 tragedies, service sacrifice, ultimate sacrifice, which we all know about very well. I think that's going to be a bucket list for me once I ever decide to run again.
You know, it's I did it with the first firm I joined out in New York with the veteran affinity group, and it was certainly an experience.
Did you? Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Bancroft has some wonderful employees and some wonderful mentors of mine, and very involved in the first responders, firefighters scene there in New York City. Really neat, and it's just one of those like really special environments and things. So, listen, we're a few minutes out before our kind of end zone on the time. I wanted to I'm gonna give it a pause to see if there's one more question came in. Doesn't look like it. Looks like we might have hit it all. And so I'd like to say to the audience, our friends in the audience, that we hope that this Patriot Lunch has been great for you. Special opportunity to dialogue with Zach Venning, and giving you an opportunity to enjoy this intimate opportunity to engage with and learn from an accomplished veteran. Zach freely chose to dedicate his life and fight for our freedom and our way of life. And he continues to give, as you see, to the veteran transition communities, as well as he's turning the corner into the financial service industry and is physically there in New York City. Zach, on behalf of Bancroft Capital, very, very hearty appreciation, gratitude for your service, your sacrifice, and your time here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please feel free, everyone, to reach out to Zach. His email address is in his bar there. I'll follow this up with a replay link and an email to everyone who registered, and his contact info so that you can better understand, get to know him a little bit. I highly recommend, really encourage you to have just a half an hour cup of coffee virtually with him so he can better understand your roles, your industries, and just really build that network. That's really the long-term win for this program. Thanks for attending, everyone. Stay tuned for the next Patriot Lunch. It's Thursday, November 9th, Thursday, 9 November. Feel free to forward that invite out to your company and your network. Just stick it on some high speed, email distros, in your veteran ERGs or your VFWs. It doesn't matter. Just to share the good news of these veterans getting out and transitioning into your workforce. I hope you had a great time today. I hope you have a great rest of today and tomorrow and a wonderful weekend. Looking forward to seeing you in November. Zach, would you like to close it out for us?
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining and listening in. I really appreciate it. And I think as difficult as it is to do the transition, it's important to have supporters like yourselves listening in and helping out. So thank you.
Wonderful. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.